On this episode of Between Two Beers, we talk to Anton Devcich. Shay, who is Anton Devcich?
Well, he's one of the most naturally talented sportsmen to come out of Hamilton Boys High School. We've predominantly been a football podcast, but Anton's a former first 15 and first 11 cricketer who graduated to play for the Black Caps in T20s and ODIs. He's played in nearly every T20 international competition there is around the world, and with that comes a bucket load of stories.
Yeah, great episode. Anton talks about nights out with Chris Gale and partying with Scott Styris. We talk about the realities of life as a globe-trotting T20 cricketer. We talk about that over, that he achieved world infamy by getting hit for 6 sixes in one over and the sort of emotional turmoil that came from that. We talk about getting fined $900 by New Zealand Cricket for swearing into a live mic, pissing off teammates and being a bit of an all-round maverick. A really entertaining episode, and Anton's a guy who has a lot to share. So stick with this one. The first 20 minutes are a little bit glitchy. There's a few Hamilton internet issues, but it gets better after that. So weather the storm and see it through to the end. Really enjoyable episode. Check it out on Apple or Spotify, or you can watch it on YouTube. Hope you enjoy. Anton Devcich, welcome to Between Two Beers. You're enjoying lockdown in Hamilton. We're just coming to the end of it, but what is life looking like for you at the moment?
Yeah, I actually am enjoying it. It's been different. Been locked up with my son and wife for 4 weeks straight. I usually get a chance to go out and play some golf or do something like that. So it's a fair share of challenges, but it's been good fun.
And so normally around this time of year, you're off playing in leagues, T20 stuff all over the world. So what does it actually mean for you right now? You're just training and keeping fit and waiting to see what happens next with COVID in the world of international cricket?
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty unknown at the moment. It's quite a there's a few tournaments that are putting some protocols and stuff in place, but it's not looking likely that we're going to get away or get any cricketer in overseas for the near future. So I know the CPL and stuff are deciding over the next couple of days whether they're going to play in one country or obviously with that tournament they bounce around the islands quite frequently. So doing that's just going to be a bloody nightmare. So I'm not confident that too much is going to happen in the near future. So I might have to put the fitness and all the weights just back a couple of months and just rest up.
Rest up, do some podcasts. Right, well, let's get into it. Shay, how do you know Anton?
Well, I went to Hamilton Boys with Anton's older brother, Dean. I think you guys were at school when I was at school, just starting to leave, but I was pretty close to Dean through 6th and 7th form, and Anton came on the scene afterwards as that little brother. But you guys, I think you played together, Steve. I know you were a bit of a wicketkeeper back in the day. Did you ever stand up between the stumps behind Anton?
Yeah, so I've got 2 claims to fame from my sporting high school years. I played football in a team with Chris Wood and Marco Rojas, and played cricket in a team with Anton Devcich and BJ Watling. BJ was the sort of stubby little opening bat who wore a helmet and would stay in all innings and, not get many runs, but he would always be there, hard to get out. And Anton was the off spinner, and I was the wicket keeper, and my dad was the coach. So I think we played together in 3rd and 4th form. Remember his bowling quite well, had a good little relationship. I haven't spoken to him or seen him much in person since I left school, but I've been following his progress quite closely on the TV, watching a lot of his games. I think me and you went to watch the ND final a couple of years ago where Anton was starring. Quite excited about getting stuck into it tonight and learning exactly what he's been doing over the last 20 years, because I know a lot of your career, just looking at the sort of list of notes Shay's made, a lot of it's been spent playing in these wild and wacky places all over the world. But we're actually going to start. We spoke to Jimmy Pamment a few weeks ago, who was the former ND coach, and he told an incredible story about facing Wasim Akram, and it sort of sent the shits down him. And I understand you may have a similar story, Anton. What can you tell us about the time you had to face Shane Bond?
Yeah, I guess I guess it was very similar to Jimmy's, to be fair, and it was probably I was about 4 or 5 games into my first class career. I would have been 18 or 19, to be fair. Was in Canterbury and Bondi. Bondi just come back. If you guys remember where he ripped through the Aussies during the VB series, where he blew Adam Gilchrist's stumps out of the ground, and he was just running hot for a period of time there, and he came back and decided to play some first class cricket, and we had 4 or 5 19-year-olds playing, so it was a big ask for us. We'd never faced much pace like that before, so the only thing I can really remember about the game is I think I was batting about 7, 8, 9. I can't remember where I was, but one of my good mates, Brad Wilson, got a big in-swinging Yorker, smashed him dead on the foot. And I can't remember who the umpire was at the time, but got him out, and poor bastard, I just remember him walking off, hobbling. Came into the change room, took his shoe off, and all I could see was this massive black red mark right on the top of his foot, and I was like, fucking hell, Jesus, here we go. Anyway, that was all right. We went out and watched the next board. I think it was Hamish Marshall. A couple of balls later, took one to the head. I was like, fuck. I didn't sign up for this. It's like, this ain't what I'm into this for. So he came right. He was all right. He, physio ran on, did the concussion test and whatnot, and he was fine. But then we had this Welsh overseas pro at the time as well, and he found himself down Bondi's end, and it just seemed to happen one after another. He took one on the elbow and actually broke his elbow. And I was at next, so I was like, this is no good. No good at all. And so I got out there, and I was like a cat on a hot tin roof. I was jumping all over the show. It wasn't ideal, but I managed to face, I reckon I faced about 6 overs straight. I faced the whole spell from him. I did not lay bat on ball once. And he was getting relative because he had that beautiful away swing from the left-hander. So I was nowhere. I was missing it by half a foot. And he was coming to the end of his spell, and he was getting a bit frustrated. So he goes to the umpire, I'll come around the wicket. And generally when a fast bowler comes around the wicket to lefty, he's trying to hit you in the head. And I was like, this is no good. But that one ball, I flicked it down to fine leg, and it just went wide to fine leg, and Gary Stead, the current Black Caps coach, was fielding under the helmet. And I took it up the other end, and for some reason I decided to come back for a second. And he's just sitting there pissed himself laughing, going, you dumb prick. You dumb prick. You got one opportunity to get off strike, and you've come back to you're an idiot. So, yeah, I guess that's my similar story to JP, to be fair. It's never nice facing guys with that sort of speed.
No, I can imagine. I mean, like I said, my cricket career finished at around age 14, but fast bowlers would just give me the absolute shits. I imagine as you become more equipped as a batsman, you learn how to deal with it. But is there still that little bit of fear when a really quickie is running in at you, or you're backing yourself to take care of it at that point in your career?
Yeah, I think as you get a bit older, you work it out a bit more. It can work in your favour. Me personally, pace on the ball's good for me. I can play more natural shots when the ball's coming on. I've always sort of said I'd rather face someone around 140 than 110, because you have to be so technically correct to face those slower guys. Otherwise, you chip one to cover or mid wicket or something like that. So I think as you get on and you go, you get a little bit more used to it. It's a bit like anything, Once you get used to it, you get comfortable and you just adjust to the level.
Great yarn, good start. So who is Anton Devcich? Well, we've predominantly been a football podcast up till now. We had Jimmy Pamment on, who was a bit of a hybrid, but Anton's our first cricketer, full cricketer. And so I want to read out the list of teams he's played for over the last 10 years, because this might give you a bit of an indication of where this man's career has gone. So Northern Districts in 2005, Lahore Qualanders, Trinbago Knight Riders, the Toronto Nationals, St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots, Nang Ha Ha Leopards, Sydney Thunder, Lahore Qualanders again, Montreal Tigers. So he's been all over the bloody world. I
think I might have missed a couple of them out there. I think you had a stint in Abu Dhabi, the T10, and the Hong Hong Kong something as well. So sorry, Steve, I probably saved you from butchering a couple of those pronunciations.
Very good. But we, as we like to do with the pod, we've asked around and researched from your friends and family and former coaches. And there was a particularly compelling quote, a reference from Jimmy Pamment, former coach. And I just want to read what he had to say about you. This is from Jimmy Pamment. Anton is the sort of guy I'll do anything for. Really likeable, but keeps you on your toes. Very talented and competitive cricketer, especially in the shorter forms of the game, which suits his attention span. He should have and could have played more for New Zealand, in my opinion. Everyone claims to like him, but he's one of those maverick type characters that sometimes gets pigeonholed in the too hard to select bracket. He's been consistently, over the past 6 to 8 seasons, when fully fit, in the top 1 to 3 players in domestic T20 cricket. He's a person and player who gave me a lot of excitement, joy, and satisfaction to work with, and a little bit of frustration at times. And I thought that was a really good description. Does that ring true to you? Does that seem fair? What Jimmy said, Anton?
Yeah, he's pretty much banged it on the head there, I'd say. Yeah, I can see definitely the frustration coming out in Jimmy at times, but you sort of just give him the wide berth when you nick off a bugger all or something like that. But no, there's some good, nice, kind words in there as well.
Yeah, so I want to pick up on a few different parts of it at a time. So very talented and competitive cricketer. And I got this from some of your other coaches too. Said one of the most naturally talented players I'd ever sort of thrown a ball at in the nets. Is that something that you credit to the hours you put in the net? So naturally talented, I know that rubs some people the wrong way because it's actually hours and hours of practice that actually makes you that good. How do you see it? Did you have any natural talents, or was it all just through grit and hard work?
It's a hard one. That one. It's obviously you have to have an element of natural ability, but I've always been a relatively clean ball striker, and I guess that's been a blessing and a curse, I guess, over the years. Because obviously, if you hit the ball sweetly, you want to continue to hit the ball sweetly, and not every situation in cricket, allows you to do that. And that's probably been my demise at times. But being the natural striker, I guess, gave me an opportunity to play in most of those teams that you listed earlier. In terms of the hard work, you obviously you're a product of your environment, and I think with Northern Districts in particular, being an association that's got players, globing all over New Zealand, top of the North Island, you just have to find a way to gel together and work together, and that's one thing the ND's always been strong with, is having a good training culture. We don't get heaps of time to train together, so when we do, we really nut it out well and get stuck in. So there's always been an element of working hard, and obviously growing up with BJ and playing a lot of cricket with BJ, you sort of get dragged along with him a little bit as well. Stephen, I agree with you. Back in the day, he used to ball the shit out of me as well when he was batting the first 11, but you've got to admire the bloke, for where he's got, and he's a guy that I've trained with for many years, and he sort of teaches you and directs you along, to be fair.
Mm. And what about his line? He says you should have and could have played more for New Zealand, in his opinion. How do you feel about your international career at this point? Obviously, there's hopefully more caps in the future, but do you feel like you've fulfilled your potential in terms of the national game?
Probably not, to be fair. Especially with T20 cricket. I think I only played 4 or 5 T20 games, and the games that I played I played really well. I played more one-day cricket for New Zealand, but in terms of should I have played more, I don't know. Because we had such a great top order. We've had obviously Kane, Williamson, Guptill, Colin, Munro. When I first came onto the scene, Brendan was opening the batting. So to try and push your way into those types of spots, you have to really be exceptional and top of your game, because all those guys were, they were international superstars while they were playing. So my career was I probably came in and out in New Zealand when Brendan needed a break or Kane was injured or things like that. So I was more of a squad player, if that's how you want to say it. Should I have played more? Don't know. It's just a question that I can't answer.
Yeah. Like I said, Jimmy is obviously a man who knows his cricketers, and he said that over the past 6 to 8 seasons, you're in the top 1 to 3 players in the domestic T20 cricket, which is a huge raps. And it sounds to me like you've had a little bit of bad luck along the way. Shay, one of your notes suggested there was a pretty bad shoulder injury right after a man of the match performance. What have you got there?
Yeah, I think you recalled to the Black Caps over in Abu Dhabi against Pakistan. And you picked up an injury after that, almost when you're sort of, in the words of Brendan McCullum, trending upwards. How, did that put pay to that momentum, and how long were you actually out for?
Yeah, I think, the Abu Dhabi injury was when I popped my shoulder out in the field. It was probably quite a crucial stage in my career, because I remember I give Kane shit every time I see him. Well, every time we're having a few beers, but I remember the game before I got 60 or 70 odd, and Kane ran me out, and I quite often say to him, "You ruined my career, you bastard! You ran me out. If I got 100 that day, I could still be playing for New Zealand." But I remember, that day I popped my shoulder out. It was pretty cooked. I played the rest of the season actually for MB, because I dislocated the collarbone. The collarbone, I think it was. But it was still okay. I got a couple of injections. It was still okay to finish the season, and after that, I had to get it sorted out, and I was out for probably 12 months. I think a good 12 months. So, if you're out for that long and someone else gets an opportunity and they do well, then you just got to sort of suck it up and get on with it, I guess. But yeah, that happened to me a couple of times actually. I remember after that shoulder injury, I got a recall back into the Black Caps to go to India for a 5-match 1-day series against India, and went over there, played over there. Then I got home, got an injection in my ankle because it was playing up, and then I ruptured all the tendons in my ankle as well, and I was out for about 18 months there. So that was pretty much the end of it for me, really, in terms of New Zealand. But that was I've had a little bit of bad luck, but everyone gets injuries, and it's just how you come back from them. But some people get them at the wrong time, which probably was one case with me.
Was it around that same time of recovering from injuries that you made the decision to kind of pursue the T20, the global stuff? Yeah.
Maybe it might have been maybe 12 months after I came back, and I think I had a really good year. I think I had a really good year for ND, and I might have got Super Smash Player of the Year the following year. Yeah. And I got overlooked for the Black Cap squad. They went with I think they went with Anaru Kitchen, who is very similar mould of cricketer. But it was sort of a bit of a kick to the guts a little bit, to be fair. I sort of thought to myself, well, shit, I've probably played as good as I could, and if I couldn't break my way back into the team through a season like I've just had, I'm probably not going to do it in the future.
Right. So Anton, you've been a professional cricket player for 15 years now. My notes suggest in 2005 was when you first linked up with Northern Districts. Were you in school, was sort of 15, 16-year-old Anton, did you know you were going to be a professional cricketer? Was it always the dream, or were there did you ever have a real job other than being a professional athlete?
I've done little bits and pieces, yeah, in terms of the real job. I ran a career. My old man had 3 career runs while we were at school. And I think Dino, my brother, took over one when he left for a couple of years, and I did one for about 6 months. But the old man got fed up, and me and Dino we used to meet up in this little alleyway and have about an hour kip every day, and didn't get much work done. So the old man had to get rid of us. So Wasn't ideal for the old man, but we were bloody teenagers and we needed our sleep. So in terms of the professional cricket stuff, mate, to be honest, I played probably more footy, more rugby during school than what I did cricket, and I probably was doing a little bit better at that than what I was at cricket at the time. But it was just a timing thing for me. It was, I think the New Zealand under-19 team was getting picked, and I made the World Cup team to Bangladesh for cricket. And then from that point forward, it was just pretty full on. I went to the academy, New Zealand Cricket Academy, the following sort of winter. And then I played for ND, and I just sort of never went back to rugby. It was a little bit sad, to be fair, because I loved playing footy, but it was just timing. It was just timing. The reason I went with cricket, got the opportunity and went with it.
Well, I'll go, Steve.
Go on.
You mentioned your brother Dean, who's a bit of a, when I was at school, was a bit of a ledge. Did the first 15, did the first 11 cricket as well. So you followed in those footsteps, and then he went down the rugby path and followed that a bit more closely than the cricket. There's 4 years age difference between the two of you. How much of following in his footsteps was there, or were you always kind of just wanting to do your own thing?
No, it was definitely an element of trying to keep up with the older brother. The backyard cricket. I'd bowl thousands of balls to him, and he'd get me out within 2 or 3 balls. So there's a lot of time in the field for me. But there's just that element. It's the same with the rugby. He'd let me get 20 points up, and then he'd come home with a wet sail in the last 20 and just pulverise me in the last 20 minutes. But I guess he's sort of the bloke who I'm a firm believer in. You're a product of your backyard cricket or backyard rugby. We couldn't play shots on playing. In terms of going back to Dino, he's obviously always been that benchmark and a little bit older and just always trying to play catch up, I guess.
He also reckons you're so strong off your pads because in the backyard, you being a left-hander, you had to play off your pads. That was the only bit of real estate that there was there, and that's why your slog sweep is so strong. How much truth is there to that?
Oh, mate, I have this conversation in the cricket shed all the time. Whatever your backyard cricket environment was as a kid, 9 times out of 10, that's where your strengths in the outdoor game. When you get to, there might not be any truth to that whatsoever, but it's just one of those things. It's the early stages of your career and your playing career mould so many technical issues or technical strengths that you've got. So keep that in mind when you're in the backyard. Make sure you've got a bloody even boundary on both sides, so you've become a 360 player.
Anton, when we played together at school, and I think a long time ago, but I think you were more of a bowler. Bowling was your forte, and you did a bit of batting. May have that wrong. But as you sort of went through your career, did those two sort of cross over a lot? Did you become a bowler who could bat, and then were you more of a batsman who could bowl? And how much did you have to work on different aspects of your game to get you to the top level? Yeah,
that's pretty much bang on. When I was sort of coming up through the grades, I was predominantly a left arm ortho, and then as I got sort of to under 19s and sort of first class level, it was sort of just naturally took a bit of a progression. To be fair, I probably wasn't good enough to make the team as just a genuine bowler, so I had to come up with something else. I was always a relatively decent fielder, but you can't make teams on your fielding ability. You have to do the other stuff good as well. So it was just a natural progression, I guess. So it sort of worked out that I had to add something else to my game to go places, and that's where the batting came in. I had to try and find a point of difference, and that for me was probably my striking ability and power game. So I just basically tried to mould everything I did around that and keep the bowling going as much as possible. The tough thing was, when you're trying to work so hard on your batting, and you've only got a limited hours of training a day, you sort of have to neglect one of them. So that's probably when my bowling sort of went on the downer there, and sort of carried on as a bit more of a batter. And that's basically how it all worked out. But it's so important for a player, especially with the leagues and all that sort of stuff, to offer to be a multi-skilled cricketer. You just got an opportunity to win the game with either bat or ball. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer for kids and stuff like that growing up, in the future.
So building out of high school, you said you were sort of more of a rugby player, but then obviously cricket really took hold. Was there a moment when you realised, shit, I can make a living from this game? I'm as good as everyone I'm playing against. This is it for me?
No, not really. No, the first few years of my career were pretty tough, to be fair. I was in and I was out, and I didn't get a contract one year and got one the next year. So there's a lot of uncertainty with finances, that's for sure. I guess the only time it probably happened a little bit later for me was when I'd pretty much given up all hope of, having a really good career. And then I got selected for New Zealand. It was weird how it worked. I was dragging my heels. I was like, shit, I'm never going to play for New Zealand. I'm 27 now. Shit, if they don't look at me now, they're never going to look at me. Rah, rah, rah. And I was sort of coming to a bit of a crossroads there. And then all of a sudden, bang, I got picked. I got on a good rich vein of form and got picked for a tour. And then from that point, it was basically just how to keep trucking along and keep getting picked. But it was probably a little bit later in my 20s when I sort of thought, shit, if I give this a good crack, I can extend this career and have a good long career.
How important was that period down at Lincoln? Because I think there was a few of you from Northern Districts that went down there, right?
Yeah, there was 5 of us. And it was the biggest waste of fucking time of my life. I say that with tongue in cheek. It was good. It was good because it taught us how to be professional. There were long days in the nets doing mundane drills and stuff like that. But deep down it was hard because it was so boring, and we got paid $60 a week, and most of the lads, we had a bit of a syndicate going on, so we'd chuck that in the tab, and if we had a good win on a horse or something like that, we'd get it down for a few beers. But most times we lost that money and we were stuck in Lincoln for the whole bloody week. But it was, let's put it this way, it was bloody good. But I would, if I had my time again, I wouldn't go. I wouldn't do it. It was 6 long hard months, and yeah, I think I probably could have done a bit more fun stuff up north in the sun.
So what sort of names are you mixing around with there in that era?
Back in the day, back in the academy days.
Yeah.
So it was BJ Watling, Daniel Flynn, Brad Wilson, a guy called Leighton Burt who played for Canterbury and Wellington. A guy called Brett Finlay, and there was another guy, Stephen, that you may remember. He went to St Paul's in Hamilton. Peter Carey. I don't know if you remember him, but he probably would have played against you first 11 days. But
okay.
The other guy who actually came down a hell of a lot was Daryl Tuffy. Because Daryl was he was in the Black Cap stuff at the time, and he was having a few injury issues, and he basically stayed down with us and just rehabbed and bowled, and so he was our older statesman, so to speak.
Coming up through the grades, were there any cricketers who stood out to you as, shit, this guy is going to be the next big thing, amazing, and then through injuries or loss of form or whatever, they just never really made it? Was there any, like, sort of, I guess, big letdowns?
There's been a few of them, mate, to be honest. But the biggest one was probably a teammate, to be fair. And he played a little bit of first class cricket, but he sort of just went off the rails and sort of just lost his way with cricket a little bit and retired. Well, didn't retire, just sort of gave it away. And his name was Tiahu Davis. He was a.
I remember him.
Do you remember Tiahu? Yeah, he was a good footy player too. To be fair, he played a few games for Waikato 19s and stuff like that with rugby, but he could bowl like the wind. He would have been under 19 stuff. He was 140. He was breaking guys' arms. He was a talent, and he could hit the ball like no one else as well. But he played a handful of games for ND, mate. If he had what it took, probably upstairs and all the things that you don't even train or think that you need to train, he probably could have played 100 games for New Zealand by now. He was that good.
Well, what about the other end of the spectrum? Some of the very best players. I mean, you've obviously played with guys like McCullum and Kane Williamson. With Chris Gale, were you at a party with him, or did you play with him over in one of your overseas tournaments? But what is it with these really world-class, top-range blokes? Is it the focus? Is it the determination? Is it that natural skill we were talking about that separates them from the rest of the pack?
Yeah. Played with Chris. To be fair, that's one of the things. The franchise stuff has been so good to me. It's allowed me to play with guys that I would never have played with if I was just treading water here at domestic level. So I guess the key difference for them is their sense of belief. It's amazing. They've got an aura about them. Don't get me wrong, they've all got their insecurities like we all do. Some of them have got bloody worse insecurities than your local bloody club player up the road, but they've just got a way of putting on a front when they're out in the middle and just getting the job done. It's Chris is an extremely interesting player to play with because he is one guy who he's got all the insecurities that everyone else has. He's probably not too keen on short pitch bowling, and he's worried about that, and he's worried about his image and all this stuff, but he finds a way to bloody hit the ball for six, he just gets the job done. But they just back themselves, and that comes through success and skill set, obviously, but that's probably the only thing that stands out.
How many games did you?
Oh, no, no, mine's irrelevant. Mine's completely irrelevant. You go with yours.
So did you say you were in a team with Chris Gale? Was that just for the one tournament, or was that a repeat team that you were in with him?
I played against Chris quite a lot, and I guess the one, I played with him at St Kitts and Nevis, and I'll never forget the day. I was playing in Canada at the time. We were playing in the Global T20 competition, and we played the first game, and it was against his team. And Southie was in that team as well, and I managed to get 94 off 40 odd balls, I think it was. And they were looking for an opening batsman at St Kitts and Nevis, and I remember getting a phone call. I went back to the hotel and got a phone call, and it was Chris. He goes, "Oh, do you want to come down for a beer?" And I was like, "Fuck!" I was like, "Yeah, I do, but I don't even know where to start talking to you, mate." I was shitting myself, to be fair. So I was like, "Fuck, get down there. You never get that opportunity again." So I got down there. And he had the coach with him, and he basically slapped the contract on the table and said, "We want you to come play for St Kitts." I was like, "Oh, that's sweet, yeah, no worries, yeah, all good." He goes, "All right." So I finished my beer, and he goes, "All right, that's you gone, I'm going out." And I was like, "Sweet." He goes, "One last thing, I'm giving you this opportunity, so don't fuck it up." And I was, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, this is going to be hard work, but. Yeah, I've played with him. He's a good lad. He loves a beer and he doesn't take things too seriously. So he's a good teammate to be kicking around with in the Caribbean. That's for sure.
So that wasn't your first trip to the Caribbean because you were there previously with the Trinbago Night Riders, and you had an opportunity while you were with them to share a meal or have dinner and a couple of drinks with your childhood hero Brian Lara. And Dwight and his mate Dwight York. Now we had on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, Jeremy Brockie, who played with Dwight York when he was in Sydney, and said that Dwight came with a reputation as enjoying a night out. Was that just
all night Dwight?
Yeah, that's the one. Was that just dinner and drinks with Brian Lara and Dwight York, or did that kick on into some calypso sort of carry on?
It did kick on, but unfortunately, I didn't go out because we were in Trinidad and we were warned not to go out in Trinidad because it's quite dangerous. So I was like, fuck, surely we're with Dwight York and Brian Lara. What could go wrong? Nothing, surely. But it was a bloody good night actually. We sort of just went to Brian's house because we were having a shit run in the competition. I think we'd lost our first couple of games, and he popped onto the bus, being a Trinidad lad, and he said, "Listen, lads, it's been a shit start, but there's always a party at my house that can change the luck." So 24 hours later, we're at his house drinking piss and eating beautiful food and rubbing shoulders with Dwight York. I didn't even know who the bloke was until we got there, and then I had to Google him. I was like, shit, oh, he's relatively good at football by the looks.
That is. I mean, is there a group of cricketers, I guess, that move from competition to competition, and you get to play against and with those guys? Do you build genuine friendships with those guys, or is it kind of superficial and you get on a plane and you go your separate ways? Like, how does that work? Yeah,
it's a bit of a boys' club, to be fair. You see most guys at the same competitions, but you might be playing with one of them one day and then against them in the next tournament. It's a little bit weird in that sense, but there's definitely a few guys you build relationships with. That you obviously you got your Kiwis and your South Africans and stuff. Your Aussies and South Africans that you sort of you're really close to because you're similar, and then you got the few West Indian guys that are really nice guys, and mate, I even played with a group of Afghanistan guys who were brilliant, mate. They were fantastic. They were so humble, just would do anything for you. They still message me to the day and ask how the family is and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool rubbing shoulders with different walks of life, that's for sure.
Anton, what are the realities of, I know you've only been doing it sort of the last couple of years, traveling all over the world for these tournaments. I know you've got a young son now and you've got the wife and things. Is it hard? We spoke to Jimmy Pamment about, I think Mike Hesson left the Black Caps saying, he was only home for sort of 40 days a year or something like that. I know it's probably not as extreme for you, but is it hard always being on the go and not having that sort of stability?
It is hard. Yeah, it's. I guess the hardest part about it is when you go to countries where you're not allowed to do much. It's quite funny. You listen to the bloody All Blacks and stuff. They go away for 2 weeks or something like that, but they're going to South Africa, which is it's quite dangerous as well. But there's some beautiful parts where they go to the European tour, and they're in England or bloody Wales for the month. We sort of have to go to Bangladesh and Pakistan and places like those, which you're not generally allowed out of your hotel because of security reasons. So that's probably the hardest part. It's just being locked up and confined to your hotel room, which has probably prepared me really well for COVID-19.
Can we talk about the realities of playing in the Afghanistan Premier League and the Pakistan Super League? When you are offered contracts like that, all jokes aside, is there a danger money component built into that? Because, like you say, they're maybe not the highest, destinations on people's must-visit list, but cricket is so important to the people there. How does that work, and what precautions do you have to take? Is Brooke back at home really worried about you and your safety? Like, that all seems like it's a pretty volatile situation.
Yeah, you definitely get a little bit of danger, mate. I'd say. I went to Pakistan last year for the first time, and that's the first time that cricket had been played there. The Pakistan Super League had been played there. and they do top you. They do top you up for the games that you play in Pakistan. In terms of the security, it was exceptional. We were traveling in bomb-proof buses. The glass on the bus was like 2 or 3 inches thick. They blocked every street off for us, so you couldn't get within like a block radius of where we were driving. There was no one on the road. I think they said there was like 25,000 military that lined the streets on the way to the ground. It was phenomenal. It was a little bit of an overkill. It made you feel probably, a little bit too safe, but the scary thing is that sustainable for future tours and things like that, which I probably say no, but you definitely, the time that I spent in Pakistan, I felt safe. It was just the sheer fact that you couldn't get out and go have some dinner or have a beer or do whatever. You sort of just locked up the whole time.
Anton, when talking to Dean, he sort of suggested that your sort of humble upbringing, the fact that you played a lot of games and cricket and sport with him and his friends who were all 4 years older, helped create a sort of backs against the wall mentality, maybe combined with the Croatian roots, which sort of created the competitiveness in you, which perhaps spilled over into your professional career. And some of the former coaches we've spoken to said that your temperament perhaps let you down at times and maybe was why you weren't picked for New Zealand on occasions. You spend a lot of time talking on the field. You're the nicest guy in the world, but sometimes you get a bit excited. I don't know if that's fair. But there is one particular instance that stands out, just doing a sort of an internet search, was obviously the time when you got fined $900 during the Super Smash T20 contest between Knights and the Firebirds for swearing at the umpires through the microphone. I think they actually stopped using player microphones after that situation. I don't know if that actually relates to what I was saying about the temperament, but is that something that now you're a bit older, you have time to reflect on, and do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I think the temperament side of things. We'll get back to the swearing on the microphone a little bit later, but I think the temperament side of things, it's worked against me, but it's worked for me as well. I got to a stage where playing first class cricket, everyone was real matey, and how you going, tap them on the bum, the opposition on the bum as they're walking past, it's good to see you, blah blah blah. And I was just fed up with that. I was like, nah, fuck that. I was like, we're here to win, we're here to win. As soon as we get into that city or we cross the line, I don't want to talk to you. And I'm going to make life as hard as possible for you when you're out there, whether it be with verbals or just sheer playing as hard as I could. I was going to do that. And sure, as soon as I got off the field, mate, I was the first one to go say well played and crack a beer with you. But I got real fed up with the New Zealand, the first class scene anyway, because I think the matiness sort of came in because we are such a small country. You tend to play with, because when you play for New Zealand and New Zealand A and New Zealand 11, you tend to play with a lot of those guys, relatively regularly. So you don't really want to be a bit of a dick. But I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to go out there and try and win every game, and whatever that looks like, that's what I'm going to do. But I guess some people probably looked at that and were like, he's a bit of a dick. But a lot of my teammates said, if we didn't have you in the team, we don't know where or how it would be going, would be soulless type thing. So sort of work for you and works against you in some sense. But would I change it if I had to go back? I probably wouldn't, because I think it sort of suits my mentality and suits my style of play as well. I'm an aggressive player, so I want to assert my dominance. I want to puff my chest out and almost fake it till you make it type scenario. So, yeah, I hope that answered your question. But we'll going on to the swearing on the mic, I got absolutely shafted with that. That's one thing for real. We had a bit of a meeting before the game, and Sky Television sort of gave us a bit of a brief. We want you to be a bit controversial, and we want a bit of, you know, entertainment, stuff like that. And I was like, sweet ass, all good, yeah, no drama. And I actually wasn't supposed to be doing the mic. They actually asked me to do the mic, and I was like, oh, well, if you want me to do it, I'll do it. And so they'd given us this brief before the game, so I was sort of having a bit of banter with the commentators at the time. I think it was Styrus. He's a pest at the best of times, and he was being a pest that day, asking niggly questions. And you know, I thought the mic had been turned off. I had a bit of a crack at Wayne in the box, but I thought the mic had been turned off. But they actually left the mic on, and it was supposed to be turned off. So Sky Television needed to front the bill there and pay my fine for me, I thought.
that caused quite an uproar, didn't it? I think you got the fine. Did you get stood down for a couple of games? You had to front the media about it? It was a bit of a storm in a teacup.
No, I got fined. I got fined $1,000, which is like 200% my match payment, which is probably the biggest fine in history. I've seen batsmen walk off the field and hit the bloody spouting off the pavilion, and they got less of a fine than what I got. So, no, it was a big fine. It might have been a bit of loading from previous events there, but just a bit of a slap on the hand and get on with it.
Yeah.
Just on that fine.
Go on.
I was surprised at to read that fine was like 2 match payments, because that amount is probably less than Stephen was getting paid at regional football when he was playing in Auckland. And that really surprised me in terms of domestic cricket. And if that was the match payment, that's a lot less than what I kind of thought domestic cricket would be.
Yeah, it's not a massive. If you said you're playing cricket domestically for the wage, you'd be lying. You know, it's a good wage. You get by on it, and you can feed your family and stuff like that. But it'd be hard to get ahead in life if you played domestic cricket for your whole career. You know, a 10-15 year career. It has got a shitload better. Don't get me wrong. I think the first one of my good mates, Nathan Daly, I think he received the first ever contract, and it was like $8,000. So it's definitely getting better. In 5 years' time, you know, it might be really good. You know, we just never know with the broadcast rights and stuff like that. But Stephen was a good player, mate, so he deserved all that money.
Yeah, take that.
Don't know about
controversial. All right, Anton. So there's two big headlines that really came up in the internet search, and you probably hate talking about it, but it's one that we've both got a lot of questions about. So we're going to go for it. It's the time Leo Carter hit you for 6 sixes in the T20. So yeah, talk us through. I guess the first question I've got is, what is going through your head after he's hit you for the 3rd 6, and then you're thinking, "Fuck, don't you do that again, you bastard!" And then is it just building and building? And each subsequent ball, you're like, "I swear to God, where am I going to bowl this thing? What the hell am I going to do?" What was going through your head?
Mate, that's basically it, mate. To be fair. The scary thing about it is Leo Carter's not the biggest 6-hitter going around. So if it was a Munro or something like that, shit, I'd hate to know how long that went for. But it was a bloody tough day, to be fair. It was, you sort of let go of that first ball and it doesn't quite come out that well, and it goes for 6. You're like, shit, I'll be right. I can't get hit for 6 sixes in a row. It's sort of halfway through the over, and you're like, "Fucking hell, this is on here," because it was a tiny boundary. It was, the wind was going that way. Everything against me. That's what we're running with anyway. But yeah, mate, it was a tough day. I'd probably put that one performance down to probably the toughest day in terms of mental stuff that I've ever had. You know, I've had a lot of downs throughout the cricketing career, but you know, processing that while it was happening, then getting off the field and having about 56 beers that night because I had to try and forget about it. That was the hardest thing. It's just fucking processing it and going, what the fuck just happened? Like that's not supposed to happen. But yeah, it knocked me around a little bit for a wee while. But it was softened because I played really well with the bat the next couple of games. So I sort of forgot about that relatively. Well, 2 weeks, if you call that relatively quickly. I still have nightmares about it now, but it was a tough day. It was a tough day, that's for sure.
Did you have to turn your phone off after that? Because I can imagine everyone just wanting to chip in and have a little say, or, I think there was stories in all the mainstream media sites about it. Like, was there interest in getting you to talk about it a lot afterwards, or did it sort of blow over, like you say, after a couple of weeks and then you didn't hear about it again?
No, I think most of the journos and commentators that knew me relatively well steered well and truly clear of the topic. But mate, I did go off Twitter for a couple of weeks because I just knew I'd get bombarded with Indian and Pakistanis telling me how shit I was, and it's that's the common theme on Twitter when you play poorly, is you just get hammered by the 10 billion people that watch it over in Asia. So. I took the phone off for a wee bit. You obviously get you find out who your close mates are during a time like that as well, because you get some real good messages as well, from around the country and from some good mates. So, you try to do your best to focus on those ones and just bin the other shit that comes through.
Well, I think in the final that Stephen and I watched, you hit, I think, 6 4s in an over. So have you got it in your locker to do the 6 6s and then be the only man in the history of the game to have bowled and been hit for 6 6s and then hit 6 6s?
Mate, it's honestly, mate, after the way I felt after being hit for 6 6s, I don't think I could do it to another human being. I'd have to block the last one. To be fair, but it's mate, it was a good effort. I've definitely given it a crack, but I've been unsuccessful on numerous occasions, that's for sure.
Well, thanks for giving us that insight. I know it's probably one that you don't enjoy talking about, but yeah, the stuff about how it was the toughest moment of your career mentally. I mean, I was thinking about that. I was thinking about when you've just been hit for 6 6s and you got to go and stand in the field, and you just know everyone's thinking about it and it's going to be on everyone's mind for a long time. That's got to be really tough to take. So yeah, I guess as a bowler, you know that things are never going to get that bad again. So like everything else is going to be okay.
Or will they? Yeah. Nah, that's right, mate. And that was the toughest thing. But the toughest thing was we went from a winning position, we were flying to a losing position pretty quickly. And that was probably the hardest thing, because we needed to win that game to go through the semi. To give ourselves a shot to go through to the semi. So, it was almost a bloody a double blow, to be fair. A, that had happened, 6 6s in an over, but B, I basically fucked up the chances of us moving on to the semi-finals. So, it's just one of those things that you have to, as a sportsman, you have to just suck it up and get on with it, I guess.
Yeah. So, Anton, where's the career at now? Obviously, we're COVID lockdown. Who knows when cricket's going to get going again? Obviously, without trying to put a cap on your career, are you thinking you're sort of in the twilight years? Are you thinking you might still have another 5 years? Like, do you think like that? And do you think, will you continue just doing this T20 stuff around the world? Or do you know?
Yeah. No, I've pretty much locked down white ball for the next couple of years at least, hopefully. I've probably played the last 4 game of cricket or first class game of cricket, just purely not because I don't want to play. I definitely want to play it, but it's just so hard on the body, and some of the injuries that I've had over the years, as you get older, you start getting those tendon issues and stuff like that from overuse and all that sort of stuff. So for me to be the best T20 player and one day player I can be, I sort of need to be fresh, and I need to be at least 80 to 90% fit, for every game. And unfortunately, 4-day cricket was a thing that was sort of breaking me down a little bit. But mate, I'd like another 2 or 3 years at least. I still love the game and love competing. And I feel like I'm batting really well still. So as long as I'm playing well and people want to pick me and playing me, I'm bloody happy to keep playing. But equally, if it all ended today, I'd be pretty bloody happy with what I've done. In the game, I've sort of, I think the thing I'd probably most be proud with is I've sort of done things differently to the grain. I've gone against the grain a little bit and done things slightly differently. So, if it all ended tomorrow, it'd be fine as well. I'd just sort of drift off into the sunset and probably see you boys on the beach a little bit more after I've been in the gym doing some weights. But just on to the next thing, I guess.
Yeah, so how much thought do you put into the next thing? Is cricket coaching something you get into, or would it be a total change in career path?
I think I never actually saw myself as a coach, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but over the last sort of 12 to 18 months, I've sort of been taking more of a role within the on our fielding aspect. We were lucky enough when we were coming through through our early years of first class cricket that we had the Marshall brothers. I don't know if you boys remember them, but they were bloody legends in the field. And they taught us basically all the little things that you don't think about. And over the last couple of years, I've sort of trying to be introducing those little things that they taught us into the younger guys now, because it's one part of the game that just gets neglected now, and people don't focus on it because it's not their core skill. It's not going to get them the $1 million IPL deal or the fielding, but it's so bloody important in the game that you got to stay in tune with all the new ways of doing shit.
Well, I've got Jimmy Pamment, a nice little IPL gig.
Yeah, fielding coach.
Mate, he's been saying all these wonderful words about me and these bloody these statements. He gives me a bloody gig for Mumbai, the prick.
Jimmy, if you're listening, cool.
Shane Bond as well.
I am body, yeah. He put me for the Thunder, get me in Mumbai. Come on, give me a go.
Anton, I'm going to pull on a few loose strands now because, like I said, we've done the big sweep of all your friends. Some of them have offered up kind of half stories saying you might take the bait, you might not. So we're going to see how we go. Now, apparently there was quite a memorable game when you were playing for Hamilton Boys High against Old Boys. Now, I'm not sure how many years ago this was, and that's all I've got, but it's been suggested there may be a bit of a yarn behind that. Does that ring any bells?
Against Old Boys? You might have can you just add a little bit more? I can't quite remember that one. Well, I played Old Boys a lot. I mark that down on the calendar every year. That's one that I have to play, but is there anything that you can sort of give me that I...
That's all the contact gave me. He said that he's not sure if you'd want to go there, but Anton against Old Boys may ring a bell, may not. It's all right. We can leave it. Shay, what other loose strands have we got?
Let's kind of stay on that theme. But what's it like for you as a professional cricketer going back and playing club cricket for Hamilton Boys First 11? Because have you done that on a couple of occasions?
Yeah, mate. Every year I go back, I play. I do. Every year you got to start somewhere, and it's for me. It's going back to Hamilton Boys and playing for them in the senior competition. And mate, I shit myself every time I go play for them because the weight of expectation is so big. But mate, I get more nervous at playing for them than what I do in bloody franchise cricket and all that sort of stuff, because everyone's sort of looking and hoping that you do well. And mate, there's no, with those wickets and slow bowlers, I'm never going to succeed against them. So it's just good, mate. Get it back with Cougs. You guys had a bit to do with Cougs back in the day as well. He's obviously the first 11 cricket coach there. He's fantastic for all those young kids, and And for us, when we were there, he was mine and BJ's coach since we were 13. So it's just bloody good getting back and having a yarn with him, and helping the boys beat a couple of 30, 40-year-old men in a game of cricket. It's good fun.
Yeah, I was talking to Cougs, and he mentioned how great it was that you and BJ often go back and give so much to these youngsters who perhaps don't have a lot, give them gloves and pads and things, and what a difference it makes to their lives. Just, you get a sort of Anton Devcich comes to school and gives you a pair of his pads. That could be the difference between a future in cricket or not. So that's awesome. Yeah, he spoke really highly of the fact that you guys actually were getting out there and giving something back. Right, the next one I'm going to pull at is, can you talk to us about your running feud with Ronnie Hera?
Jesus, you could have picked quite a few names there, Ronnie Hera. I've got a massive respect for Ronnie. I honestly do. I love the way he plays his cricket, and I think he's a bloody good cricketer, to be fair. But yeah, you're right. We've had a fair share of blow-ups on the field together, but he's great. He's great to blow up against because he blows up back. He doesn't take a backward step, and Colin Munro's the same, to be fair. I've had a few bloody blow-ups with him on the park as well, and the good thing about those two is they can let it go straight away. They're very similar to me. They're wide up, very similar to me, but yeah, I take pleasure in trying to get under their skin because I know it gets a reaction. There's nothing worse than having a go at someone and they just look at you and don't say anything. It's like, come on, mate, give me something. At least come back at me or say something back. Those guys are the more frustrating ones, but yeah, it's good fun. Ronnie's he's not the hardest to bait, but he gives it back.
Yeah, Matthew Sinclair's another one I've got in my notes that. If you had a run-in with Matty Sinclair?
Who hasn't, to be fair? Who hasn't? Skippy, mate, honestly, with Skippy, if you looked at him and breathed at him, he would find that offensive at times and have a go back at you. But I can't think of the there's been so many occasions against Skippy. I can't pinpoint one that sticks out, to be fair. But
okay.
I'm trying to think of one that spilt over into the changing room one day into the lunchroom was with Munro one day. Colin Munro, the Black Caps opener at the moment, and he was walking off the field. We were batting, and it was at Colin Maiden over, so there's a bit of a pavilion, where everyone stood. And we were in the shit. We were 4 or 5 down, and Graham Aldridge, our older statesman, was padded up, and he was just clapping the boys off because it was lunch, and Munro's walked off, and he's looked up at the balcony and said, "You're fucking out here next, you old prick," pointing at G. And G was just sort of like taking. G's the most placid lad in the world. He wouldn't say a bad word about anyone. And I was sort of sitting next to G, and I was like, "Nah, that ain't gonna wash." And Munro's got up to bloody lunch real quick, and we just had a big barney. Like, the poor lunch lady was like carrying the bloody beef stroganoff, and she was standing in the middle of us, and we were going at each other. And I don't know how it ended up breaking up, but it was a relatively good blow up at the lunchroom. So it spilt over into the lunchroom, which was not ideal. But yeah, going back to Skippy, he was pretty easy to wind up as well, to be fair.
Amazing. Shay, how we looking, mate? What we got left on your exhaustive notes pad there?
Who, in your opinion, Anton, is the best New Zealand cricketer of Croatian descent? Yourself or Joey Jovic?
Oh, there's been a lot more. There's been a lot more than just me.
Oh, hey, look, I'm happy to bring more names to the table.
I'd say Joey's got more Croatian in him than what I do, so I'd say Joey. Joey's got more Croatian in him, so he can take that mantle.
And is there any chance of you ever playing international cricket for Croatia if their ban from the ICC is lifted?
Are they banned?
I might have made that up. I don't know. Wikipedia is not always
That
the
should be
most
there.
reliable.
No, 100%. If I retire and they say come to Dubrovnik for a 2-week training camp in July, I'm fucking there with bells on. To be fair, I'm there.
Well, are you more likely to play rugby for them?
Either or. If it's during July and it's for 2 or 3 weeks, mate, I'll play tiddlywinks for them. If it's during July.
Right, Shay. My notes suggest that there's an Outback story which may or may not involve Anton and Dean Devcich. What do you got?
Yeah, look, that's probably one of my earlier memories of Anton post Hamilton Boys. And for those listeners that aren't familiar with the Hamilton institution that is the Outback Inn, the toilets link up the front and the back bars. And I just recall, I don't know whether I was following or what happened, but there was some instance where Dean decided to follow someone or chase someone round the back bar through the toilets, and the guy tried to escape through the front towards what was colloquially known as Rugby Corner. And younger brother Anton was waiting in Rugby Corner. And as soon as the guy came out, he was accosted by young Devcich in the front, and then old Devcich came through at the back. Now, I don't know how many times you set that trap, but it seemed to work. It seemed to work perfectly that night. Is that something that had been rehearsed in the backyard, or is that just something that happened spontaneously? And does that sound like it's accurate, or had I had too many? What do they used to call them? Backdrafts.
Backdrafts, yeah. I think I must have had a couple that night as well. To be fair, but no, that definitely wasn't rehearsed. Maybe coincidence. Maybe I was, talking to a few of the rugby lads out the back and just happened to run into a guy who was running out of the toilets. I'm not sure. But no, I remember those days. They're bloody good days, actually. The Outback days. It was quite weird. There was actually cricketers one side, rugby players the other, and they were both situated by the toilets, which is the worst place you'd probably want to stand next to while you're having a night out. Some of the horrendous things that happen there. But there's probably a few occasions like that, Seamus, that we probably shouldn't discuss on live podcast.
Let the past be the past.
So let's
tell us
something that we can. Oh, I think we've got a delay here. So Steve and I are talking over each other. So I'm going to take the lead on this, Steve, and you get the next one.
Yep.
But talk us through the nickname, the Big Call. Where did that come from, and what's behind that?
Yeah, it's sort of just one that stuck, mate, to be fair. Scott Styris, he obviously came back and played for us for a few years in the twilight of his career. Might I add, he was bloody milking the cow all the way to the bloody wherever you milk the cow to. But he wanted to start me out. He always gave me shit about, you come up with some outrageous calls, Anton. Some of the biggest calls I've ever heard you have made. Which it's probably fair. I do come up with some fucking random shit at times, but he wanted to start me up on Twitter, and he wanted to call it Big Call, Big Call 13 or something like that. And he forced me. He was a bully. He forced me to do tweets that he sort of prescribed to me, but he made me start everything with this may be a big call, but, and then the tweet followed. So I had to. So even if I didn't want to post it, he'd be like, "Mate, you've got to say that. That'll get some great follows." I didn't even know what Twitter was, but he was sort of coaching me through it, and I was like, "Shit, this might be a good idea. I might make some bloody cash out of this." To be fair, but, that's where the name came from, and it's sort of just stuck now. Now, mate, there's 18-year-olds calling me Big Call, and they don't even know what the hell it's about. So it's one of Styris's little nicknames, but yeah, that's the way it goes. I got Styris is a bit of a punchy guy on the booze. He gets a little bit. Obviously, he's got a bit of weight to throw around, so he gets a bit punchy on the booze and a bit wrestly on the booze. But there was one day. There's one day in the we were in Wellington. And he got a bit punchy on the booze, and one of us got up with blood coming out of their lip, and it was a guy with a lesser tan that had a little bit of blood coming out of his lip. But he's good. He was a good lad. He was good. Always good for a bullying nickname. That's for sure.
Fantastic. Well, that has got me dry on my notes. Shay, any last points before we wrap this one up?
I've got a couple of things I want to pick up on. One is the BBL, and that experience as a competition. Like how we get it over here, obviously live. How big a deal is that in Aussie and IPL? Like, where does that sit is that still on the bucket list to tick off?
Yeah. Mate, the Big Bash was probably, apart from playing for New Zealand, it was probably the biggest, I guess, goal of mine is to try and crack. Because there's only been a handful of Kiwis that have ever played in it. You know, you've got your Vittoris, your McCullums, Ish Sodhi's played a handful of games. Munro played 2 or 3 games. There's probably less than 10 guys that have played over the history of the BBL. So that was always a big goal of mine. And the day that I got the phone call from Bondi, mate, it was like Christmas. All my Christmases come at once. I didn't know what to bloody do, and it was a bloody tough decision. I sort of had to go. I had to choose contract here in New Zealand or play in the Big Bash, and I sort of had to make my decision within a 2 or 3 day period, and it was it sort of worked out that I was just going to take the punt and play in the Big Bash and say goodbye to all the security here at home and just give it a good old crack. And it was one of the best experiences I can say I've ever had. You know, like playing for New Zealand was great. Had a great time there, but the Big Bash for me, you know, and people will probably get pissed off at me saying this, but that's probably the pinnacle of my career. You know, later in my career, it was the one thing that I really wanted to do. So it was a pretty cool experience. You know, you're rubbing shoulders with buddy, you know, Ricky Ponting's trying to interview before the game and things like that, and you know, you got Shane Watson standing at the other end batting with you, who you bloody grew up watching and admiring, and just the whole atmosphere and the way they do it. You know, you here at home you've got one TV crew covering the broadcast, but over there you've got bloody 2 or 3. So there's like 15, 20 cameras on the field at any one time. So it's just a super smash on steroids, to be fair. You know, they do it so well. But no, it was awesome. It was awesome. And the IPL, I haven't played in the IPL. I've had it, you know. I think I've played in every league apart from the IPL, and obviously that's the most rewarding financially. But today, you know, if I get picked for IPL, it'd be great. But you know, the fact that I haven't played IPL doesn't really worry me too much. You know, I've played in all these other leagues, and they've been good fun, and they've probably been enough. To be fair, they've been enough to feel good about what I've done in my career.
Do you ever get confused in the post-match interviews, or because and again, this isn't meant disrespectfully, but you've played for so many teams, do you really have to concentrate when you're being asked the questions on who you're actually playing for, that you don't slip up and say, you know, it's great to play for the Gladiators today, or, you know, the Knights or the Knight Right? Like, not being funny, but like, there's a lot in there.
Yeah, there was. Funny you should say that, because I played T10 2 years ago, and our team was called the Karachians, and I got picked for the Karachians. And then just before the tournament started, we changed our names to the Cinders team, and then we couldn't use that name, so they changed it to the Gladiators. So we had three different names in the space of about a month. I was calling us the Karachians, the Cinders bloody team, or the Gladiators. I was so confused. But You get awkward when you can't pronounce the Nangarhar Leopards or the Bangladesh team that you're playing for or whatever. But if you say mate, if you call everyone mate, you can't get too many names wrong.
And were you in the that promo, the Pakistan Super League promo with Brendan McCullum that I've seen on Twitter in the green uniforms? Did you make an appearance in that?
No, I blew my ankle out about a week or two before the tournament. Thankfully as well, because that could have been a massive tarnish on my career. That video.
Your brand,
put it up in the feed.
For a few years was the huge beard. I was thinking this is probably one of the only times you've been interviewed by two blokes who are sporting bigger beards than you, because for a while there it was huge, wasn't it? It was a glorious beard. At its pomp, at its peak, how long had you been growing it for? Was it you just a naturally hairy bloke, or was that sort of 3-4 years worth of effort?
No, naturally, the Croatian side of the family's definitely got the hairy genes, and it tends to grow relatively quickly. I think a group of mates back in the day, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we did 18 months without shaving, without trimming, without shaving, without doing your little thing under there that you do. But it was it was fairly long. It was hard to say goodbye to that one, that's for sure. There was a lot of time and effort into that. But yeah, I got to a stage where I was going to Pakistan and a lot of Asian countries, and people just loved it. All the Asians loved it. They bloody, that's all they bloody knew me by, is the beard. So I thought, shit, if I shave it off, I might not get a gig. So I better keep it on and keep them happy.
It seriously is quite a smart branding play, isn't it? If you're known for your big beard and that's how you get recognised, and you have a great game and they think, shit, who was that? Oh, it was the guy with the big beard. Get him back. Yeah, it's smart. Bring it back.
Yeah, well, might take another couple of months, but I generally trim it up every now and again. Every bloody winter I might give it a clip, or I gave it a clip about a month ago, relatively short, and I had a look in the mirror the other day, and there's a shitload of greys coming through. So I don't know. I'm going to have to get through get a rinse through it or something. I'm not sure.
Happens to the best of us.
So are you doing your own? Are you doing your own beard grooming? Are you? Because I think the last time I saw you was in Murray Rose Barbers, but then I did notice in your Twitter you got a Fox Kennedy jumper on as well. So have you changed allegiances from Murray to Fox Kennedy's? Have you?
Mate, you were taking up all the time slots. You were getting a haircut maybe four times a month.
Good.
So it was tough to get out of Murray.
It's good from you.
It was tough. Every time I was in there, it was a cut, a shampoo, a bloody, you had the works every time. No, it was just a little bit expensive for me. I only need $10 haircut. I don't need a $45 haircut like you.
Stop it.
All right. Well, I think when we start talking about haircuts and beards, that may be a good time to wrap things up. Anton, thank you so much for joining the Between Two Beers podcast. Been a great hour and a half. A lot of gold in there. So yeah, thanks very much. All the best when this COVID situation clears itself. Look forward to following your progress across whatever country and tournaments you pop up in, and hopefully a few more Black Caps caps as well. Shay, last words.
No, awesome to get you on record. I appreciate your honesty, and it's good that the competitiveness isn't just for show, that it's the real thing. So go well, and we'll see you on the pitch sometime soon.
Yeah, thanks, boys. I appreciate it. We've had fun.